Have you ever wondered how photographers use a foreground blur to create depth in their image? Foreground blur will remove distractions around your subject and allow your eyes to lead into the details that matter. Now, what about if your images are flat and you don't have those foreground elements to blur to get that beautiful 3D look in your images? Well, I'm going to show you how to do that in Photoshop. So stick with me. I'm excited to show you what I can do in the field and on the computer. If you are new to this channel, my name is Shannon and I'm a full-time photographer in beautiful British Columbia. Whether you're here to learn, be inspired, or simply enjoy some stunning visuals, you've come to the right place. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos like this. Okay, before we go to the computer and I show you on Photoshop how you do this cool effect, I'm going to show you how I do it in the field. I got a simple setup here where I've got my camera and a telephoto lens, and I'm compressing the field of view, where I've got the camera here, and then I can have a foreground element, which is going to be these yellow flowers. Then I have right here my little cardinal. So if I didn't have the foreground element compressed into this image, I would just have, the cardinal without anything in the foreground. So whenever you're photographing something, if the elements around it are a bit distracting, try and find something that's close to you, the photographer, and put it in front of the lens. Now here's another example where it's a little hard to tell, but there is a bank of snow halfway between myself and this coyote. Now if I switch over to my Z9, this is what I see through my lens. And that little snowbank is blurred now, kind of creating this soft winterly landscape that I really like. It doesn't have a harsh line where that bank of snow is. Now here are a few more examples where I have foreground elements that are blurred to bring the eyes into the subject. And this can really help extend the environment that the subject's in. Now it doesn't have to be wildlife, it can be landscape as well, and you can even shoot people using foreground elements like I've done for tourism or for model shoots. This is a great technique. Okay, I don't have a sponsor for today's episode, but I do have workshops that are coming up. And so if you want to check out what workshops I've got going on, what spots I have available, please go to madshannon.ca/workshops, and they're all right there. Okay, I'm in Lightroom on the computer. I like to start in Lightroom, organize, do some global and some, specific adjustments. And then I move it over into Photoshop. And Photoshop is where the magic is really going to happen. So let's start in Lightroom with some adjustments. One thing I'm going to do is maybe just brighten up the shadows, kind of a global adjustments, and then bring down maybe the highlights, bring up the exposure a tiny bit. Now I'm going to select the raven here by going up to my masking tool here, and then I can click on subject. It will highlight the subject here, and now I can add a little bit more of the shadow, some contrast, bring the highlights and the blacks down a little bit. That's looking good. Then I'm going to go down into my texture. Maybe I'll bring that up in a little bit of clarity, and it gives that raven a bit of a shine to it. Looks really nice. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is go up to the plus icon of my mask tool, and I could select the background. Let's just do that and see what it looks like. Great. If you didn't select the background, you could just invert our previous selection by right-clicking it and going down to duplicate and invert mask. So same difference. We have the background now, and we have some of the foreground, but it's all included, which is really nice. And now I am going to brighten things up and remove some of the, distractions in the background. And even if I don't get them all, that's okay, because in Photoshop, we're going to be removing them. Okay, that is good. We're going to then go down to the bottom left where the image is, and I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to say edit in Photoshop. Click on that and it'll pop it open into Photoshop. Okay, here it is in Photoshop. Everything's looking really good. First thing I'm going to do is hit Command J to duplicate my layer. That way, if anything goes wrong, I at least have the background layer that is now locked as sort of my default, my backup file. Now, if you're new to Photoshop, it can be a little bit intimidating, but basically a quick walkthrough. On the left-hand side, we have all of our tools, like our brush tool, our clone stamp tool. And then when you select that, on the top here, you'll have some features or characteristics that you can change within that tool. And for the brush tool, up at the very top, you can, select the hardness and the size of your brush. You can also pick like patterns and stuff, like say if it was diamonds and you were to brush across your image, a whole bunch of diamonds would follow. It's an endless pit of options. But anyways, we're going to pick something that's nice and soft. And the next thing we're going to choose an opacity that is like, 1/3 of the strength. And same thing for the flow. That way, if we brush, we're not doing 100% just bleh, all of our adjustments. We want to do nice strokes and slowly bring the adjustments that we want to the image without really going too harsh and being, distracting. Okay, so that's the side and the top. On the bottom right, this is where we're going to see all of our different layers. And it's a little bit different than Lightroom, some similarities. And one of them is if we go down to the bottom where we have this little icon that's like a circle with a line through it. This is our adjustments layer panel here, which brings up all these different options. And you'll see a lot of similarities here in Photoshop like you see in Lightroom, like exposure, curves, panel, vibrance, color balance. So let's click on curves for instance, and you'll see a curves panel come up, and we can play around with this curves. And it's just like Lightroom, but everything is broken up into layers that you can add on top of one another. So that's a brief, layout of Photoshop. Now, what we're going to choose is an adjustment layer, and it's going to be a solid color. So I'm going to pick a solid color, and we're just going to pick a gray here. I'm going to change the color a little bit later, but just choose gray for now, arbitrary. What I'm going to do is go over into the layer mask, which is white right now. White is to reveal, which is revealing what this is, which is a gray color. If we go Command I to invert, it conceals that gray color. Now at this point, since it's concealed, I can double click on that color again. And if I move my cursor onto the image, you'll see a little eyedropper. This is important because I can actually select the color that I want to brush into my scene with accuracy to what is there. So I can select something. And it's mostly going to be white, but there is some colors in there. So there's a little bit of blues and some purples. I'm going to press OK. So now that I have my color, I'm now going to brush that color into my scene as a layer over top of this raven. So it's black, which is concealing everything. So I got to make sure that I'm going to pick my paintbrush here on the left-hand side. Then I'm going to go all the way down and make sure that I have white selected, and you can double click on it and choose white if you want to, if it isn't selected. And then I'm going to brush over the raven, creating this beautiful foreground soft blur. And basically I'm painting over this adjustment layer on the harsh line that was there in front of this raven that I found a bit distracting. So I wanted to create a bit of a softer approach up to the eyes and to the face of this raven. And we can even brush out some of the color that's in the background. And you can even add a little bit of atmosphere. And it's almost like blowing snow, or, we're basically creating that snowbank that our lens is focusing through, and that bank is out of focus because we're focused on the raven. and it's blurring into our image. And it's basically as simple as that. This is like super high key image right now. Let's go over to another one. I did the same thing with this coyote. And you can see that there was like snowmobiles going through, and there's some tracks in the snow. And I can just kind of soften and blur it. I mean, it might be a little extreme on the tail and stuff here. We could just remove some of that. And it just softens the amount of distraction that might be down there in the foreground. Now, like I said at the beginning of this film, you can do it in the field where you're just finding foreground elements to blur in to either remove some distractions or to extend your environment so it looks like your subject is in the middle of that environment. And this is a lot of fun to do in the field, and then you can also play around with it in post-processing, and this is the technique to do that. So if you like this content, please give me a thumbs up, and if you aren't subscribed, think about subscribing. My Yellowstone adventure is not over. This week is spring break, and my son has been home, so I've been quite busy, but I'm going to be putting together the second part of my adventure in Yellowstone. So stay tuned, hit that little bell icon, and I will see you on the next episode. Ciao.